patient's chief complaints always has to be recorded with the patient's own statement.
Tent like structure made of nickel and titanium alloy, what we call an occluder, is positioned across the defect guided by fluoroscopy.
If you try to open this way, when the gown comes out, there are chances of the gown brushing your hand.
वे कह सकते हैं कि कोई उन्हें निर्देश दे रहा है, कोई उनके कानों में बात कर रहा है, जो वास्तव में वहां नहीं हो सकता, या वे कुछ ऐसा देख सकते हैं जो बिल्कुल भी मौजूद नहीं है। तो ये सभी भ्रांतियां हैं जिनके बारे में वे कहने की कोशिश करते हैं।
எப்போதும் 94% மேற்பட்ட ஓய்வு நிலையை இலக்காக கொள்ளுங்கள் மற்றும் அனைத்து நோயாளிகளுக்கும் 100% இலக்காக கொள்ள வேண்டாம்.
The blood and blood component bag should be checked for any sign of hemolysis in the plasma, which may happen due to overwarming or freezing of bag.
అంతేకాక హైపోగ్లైసిమియా ఎదుర్కొనడానికి సరిపడా 25% డెక్స్ట్రోస్ బాటిళ్లను అందుబాటులో ఉంచాలి.
She is pressing her hand against the baby. Similarly, the other hand against the other baby. You have to ensure that the neck support is there for both the babies.
ಇದು ಶಸ್ತ್ರಚಿಕಿತ್ಸೆಯಿಂದ ನಿರ್ಮಿತವಾದ ಜೆಜುನೋಸ್ಟಮಿ ಎಂಬ ತೆರೆಯುವಿಕೆಯ ಮೂಲಕ ಸಣ್ಣ ಅಂತರದಲ್ಲಿ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಪೋಷಕಾಂಶಗಳನ್ನು ಒದಗಿಸುವ ವಿಧಾನವಾಗಿದೆ.
Testicle biopsy means as bit of the testicular tissue is taken. This is done only when you're planning to take the tissue, look for sperm.
And there are times when people can have what is called partial seizures, where only part of their body is involved and moves.
ഒന്ന്, സാങ്കേതികമായി മരുന്നുകൾ നൽകുന്നതിലൂടെ ഇത് കുറയ്ക്കുന്നതാണ്. ഔഷധമില്ലാത്ത രീതികൾ ഉപയോഗിച്ച് രോഗിയെ ശരിയായ നിലയിൽ ഇരുത്തുക, ഭക്ഷണം കുറയ്ക്കുക.
You have to place one over the apex and one over the sternum, and you have to deliver the shock by using these red color buttons.
Good evening to everyone who have gathered here for the webinar series of breastfeeding, creating sustainable support system nurses role. Dear delegates, we are here gathered to listen to a wonderful presentation on the breastfeeding week and the methods of breastfeeding. May I now have the pleasure of introducing and explaining about the digital learning platform for working healthcare professionals, including nurses, doctors, medical technologists and hospital administrator. The platform acts as a bridge between theoretical knowledge and the practical requirements of the healthcare practice. Hxplain is a crucial resource for working professionals to update themselves on the latest advances and industry best practices. The easy-to-use platform is tailored to the needs and constraints of working professionals, thereby ensuring a balance between work pressures and the need to stay updated with medical knowledge and skills. This webinar is particularly relevant to today's world where young mothers without the traditional support systems face unique challenges combined with the misinformation that is widely circulated in social media. I have now the whole webinar is being powered by Kailash Institute, Noida, and we have with us Professor Bindya Goyal, who is a good friend of mine, who is also one of the mentor institute of among the 14 mentor institutes of the UP state government. She is a chemical engineer turned as a nursing professional. Bindya, over to you. You can introduce yourself and the institution. We have the honor of hearing you.
Hello, is it okay? Hello. So, should I start? Hello. A very good afternoon to all. I'm Bindya Goyal, Academic Director, Kailash Institute of Nursing and Paramedical Sciences. I extend a very hearty welcome to Dr. Sharda Ramesh, Dean, Vinayaka Mission Deemed University, Team Hxplain, Miss Nitya Ranjan, Aryan, our lactation expert and childbirth educator today, all the nursing professionals and dear students who have joined us today. First of all, I would like to congratulate Dr. Sharda Ramesh services. It's a matter of great pride for us to associate and work with people like you. As we are an A-grade mentor institute working with UP State Medical Faculty, JAPICO, UP TSU, for improving the quality of nursing and paramedical education in our state under Mission Niramaya. We have co-organized and hosted CNPD session for UP State Medical Faculty, in which we invite experts from all over India to deliver virtual lectures every month for growth and development of nursing professionals. We are now delighted to support Hxplain, which is also a digital learning platform. In today's fast evolving environment, online learning has become a very important tool to improve your knowledge for practice and professional development. But the success lies in commitment, discipline, dedication, and active participation. So I would encourage all my students to participate actively and engage by asking questions. Now highlighting today's topic, Breastfeeding Week is a global initiative to promote and support breastfeeding by World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action in collaboration with UNICEF and WHO. Mother's milk is Jeevandai Amrit for a newborn. As caregivers and educators, we are in a important position where we can influence people and clear their misconceptions and guide them through evidence-based practice. So let's learn from our lactation expert today, deepen our knowledge, and stay dedicated to spreading awareness through capacity building. Thank you. Happy learning all.
Dear participants, I have few announcements to make. Participants, please note, link to form has been linked to your chat window. Please fill this up to receive your participation certificate. Do not forget to fill this form. Read the stream's description to get more details about the course programs offered by Hxplain and upskill yourself. Over to the expert. Let me have the proud privilege of introducing our expert today, Ms. Nitya Rajnarayanan, who is an expert lactation consultant. Nitya Rajnarayanan came from a non-medical background. She did her MBA from California, USA, and worked across various corporations where she got her exposure to healthcare. Somewhere along the way, she realized how much women need support from other women, especially during pregnancy and after birth. It's something that was missing in many of the community settings. That led her to train in childbirth education and lactation education through CAPA. And then she went to do ACLP, Advanced Certified Lactation Professional course with Beginning India. Right now, she works as a visiting consultant at Dr. Rela Institute, Krompet, and a Ma clinic at Sholinganallur. She also runs her own private practice and offers online and home consultations for antenatals and postnatal mothers. Breastfeeding support is something she's really passionate about. It's often misunderstood or sometimes just taken for granted, but it's such a key bond between a mother and a baby. Over the years, she has worked with over 50,000 families to support them on their breastfeeding journey. Now, we have a stalwart on lactation consultation, Ms. Nitya Rajnarayanan, who is going to
Good evening all. Thank you so much Dr. Sharda for the introduction, and thanks to Professor Bindya for joining us as well. I feel extremely honored to have Hxplain invite me to give this talk, so a big thanks to the Hxplain team, and thanks to all the amazing participants who have joined from across India and a few from across the globe, so thank you all so much. So today, as we are celebrating the World Breastfeeding Week, I'd like to talk a little bit about breastfeeding, how we are going to create sustainable support systems, and what are the important roles that nurses play. So let's begin our presentation today. So what is the theme for this year? So we all know World Breastfeeding Week is celebrated from August 1 to August 7 every year. And this week's theme is prioritizing breastfeeding, creating sustainable support systems. What does it mean while creating? To promote breastfeeding as a universal health priority. Let's look at some of the benefits of breastfeeding. I'm sure all of the young nurses who've joined do know some of these, but it's my duty to spread this word not just in the nursing community but beyond into homes, hospitals and other communities as well. So what are the benefits for breastfeeding? Let's break it up a little bit. So for the baby, how is breastfeeding important? It is nutritionally complete. It's a wholesome food. Breast milk alone is sufficient for the baby. It offers a lot of immune boosting properties, so there's an immunity that is extremely high in breastfeeding babies, and it also promotes brain development and body development. And how is breastfeeding beneficial for the mothers? For mothers, it helps with uterine contractions, and then a lot of cancers. It provides immunity or safety against a lot of cancers like breast cancer, cervical cancer. So breastfeeding mothers have high chances of avoiding these kind of cancers. And of course, it promotes a lot of emotional bonding with the baby, which is extremely important. And for the society, yes, it's extremely cost effective. Breastfeeding is free. It costs zero. It's readily available and it's eco-friendly, and it does support public health. So these are the various benefits for breastfeeding. Let's move on. We are going to speak about exclusive breastfeeding. What is exclusive breastfeeding? Birth till 6 months, from day 0 till 6 months of the baby's life, we need to promote nothing other than mother's milk. Mother's milk by itself is a wholesome food, and the babies do not need any other food other than the mother's milk for the first 6 months of their life. What does it mean? It means no water, no formula, or no other feeds need to be given for the first 6 months of baby's life. And what does it do? Exclusive breastfeeding supports immunity and nutrition, and it reduces a lot of infection and mortality. Mortality rates are very low in exclusively breastfed babies. I just want to point out a few key indicators from the IYCF. If you look at this chart, I hope you're able to see this chart. What we see here, I do have a copy of it myself. So what you see here in this chart is the first bar shows early initiation of breastfeeding. In India, this is a chart that is exclusively in India from the NFHS 5, which was the last National Family Health Survey. Here you can see that about 41.8% of babies are only initiated breastfeeding within the first hour. As compared to, if you look at exclusive breastfeeding, you can actually see only 63.7% of babies are exclusively breastfed, which means that they are exclusively breastfed only breast milk for the first 6 months. This is not near the global required standard of WHO, where we expected at least 70% of the babies should be exclusively breastfed. What does that mean? This means that probably in 4th month, 5th month, other foods are being added, or maybe formula is being added quite early, and we are not able to reach a very high percentage of exclusive breastfeeding. In the 3rd bar, you can see introduction of complementary feeding in 6 to 8 months. What is complementary feeding? Adding other foods. But the last one will be quite concerning. Only 11.3%, which is very, very low, of babies are having the minimally acceptable diet. Why is this happening? This is mainly happening because a lot of babies are not being fed being breastfed beyond a few months, because breastfed is one of the biggest nutritional value that can be given. So that's why this is an alarmingly low number, and this is the gap that we are all looking to bridge as healthcare professionals. Let's take a look at this particular graph. This is again a graph that is very relevant to just India. In India, you see about 88.6% of births are institutional births. What does institutional birth mean? It means that the births are happening either at a hospital, a health center, or a birthing center. But you see only 41.8% of the babies are actually initiated breastfeeding within the first hour. In spite of 88.6% of births happening in hospital settings, we are unable to initiate the first hour, the golden hour birth. So we really need to start introspecting on why this is happening and try to maximize getting that first hour of breastfeeding initiation wherever we work, at our workplaces, in our communities, or wherever we are. I'd like to do a small demo, because I'm sure as nurses that is absolutely going to be crucial for you all to go and help mothers, whether it's within the hospital you're working, or whether you're looking at them in the community, or whether we are going home, you're having a friend or a family member giving birth. Supporting breastfeeding is one of the key basic roles I think all of us should know. So I'm going to demonstrate a few positions. There are a lot of positions, but let me talk about a few key positions in breastfeeding. So I do have a little baby model. I'm sure this isn't like a real baby, but in size wise, we can probably look at maybe a 2.7 kg baby. So the first position that I would like to demonstrate is the most common position which you would all have seen or known in your family settings, in the hospital as well. This is called as the cradle position. But let's be very careful about understanding how exactly this should happen. So you can see I'm placing the baby on my arm. So I'm going to try feeding the baby on the left breast. I'm going to place this baby on my arm. And the most important thing to understand here is, because this is a common mistake that happens. The baby is placed, but the baby is looking at the ceiling. That's not how it should happen. Remember to turn the baby fully towards the mother. So what we call is tummy to tummy. The baby is turned fully towards the mother. You can see one hand on one side of the breast and the other hand on the other side of the breast. Remind the mothers to lean back. A lot of mothers end up coming forward, which makes breastfeeding experience very painful. Tell them lean back. Make use of one pillow, maybe another pillow. Get the baby to the height of the breast so that the mother is comfortable. This is the most common position you will see mothers doing. But again, what is the challenge with this position? You see, there is no control of the baby's head. So you would have heard a lot of mothers telling the baby keeps shaking the head. How do I do that? Because the cradle position is more like a practiced and advanced position. So how can we start off? Let's start off with the cross cradle position. What is the cross cradle position? Here, it's the same thing. The baby is turned towards the mother, tummy to tummy. One hand is on one side of the breast, the other hand is on the other side of the breast. But the arm that you're going to use is the arm opposite to the breast in which you're feeding. For instance, I'm putting the baby on my left breast, which means I'm going to use my right arm to position the baby. So remember, the baby's bottom is here. So I need to hold the baby tight. This is something all mothers ask me. Will the baby be crushed? Somebody is going to ask you that. Am I holding the baby too tight? It's important to remind them that the babies are used to being in a small, comfortable womb. They like being held close. So instead of scaring them, it's very, very important to explain, yes, babies like to be held close. Babies like to be held tight. I mean, nobody is crushing the baby. It's just that holding them tight so that they don't move so much. So again, but I am supporting the baby's head, neck and back with a single hand. So this hold is called the cross cradle hold. Again, you're going to use two pillows so that the mother is comfortable, and you can use the other hand to latch the baby. So you have control of your breast, you have control of the baby. The latching becomes a lot more easier, and this is one of the earliest positions that you can teach mothers. The third position that I would like to demo is called as the football, or it's also called as the clutch hold. When and where is this position useful? Scenario 1, if the mother has had a cesarean section and she's finding a lot of pain in her abdomen. So what will you do? She'll say, no, I can't place the baby on my tummy. It is very painful. That is one scenario. Scenario 2, many mothers have extreme bloating after delivery. So they may not even be able to place the baby, even in normal vaginal deliveries. So that is your scenario 2. Scenario 3 is when mother has flat nipples. She is unable to control, unable to hold. In this scenario, the football hold makes a lot of sense in feeding. And the fourth scenario is when the breast is very big for the baby. It could be either because mother has a big breast, or probably because the baby is too small for the breast. So there is an inconsistency between the size of the baby and the size of the breast. So these are some of the scenarios where you will use the football hold. So let me show how the football hold happens. You will also notice a scenario where mothers are typically comfortable feeding on the cross cradle or the cradle hold on the left breast. But right breast always seems to be a struggle. So in that scenario also you can teach them the football hold. So what is the football hold? Same arm, same breast. So I'm going to put the baby under the crook of my arm, just hold the baby tight again, give support to the head, neck and shoulder, lean back. Again, can keep one pillow here, another pillow here, give a nice support. Use this hand to control the breast. The beautiful thing about this position is that for mothers who are very anxious about feeding the baby, they can actually see the baby's face very beautifully. So this gives a nice face-to-face with the baby. So this hold is one of the early holds for mothers who are anxious about breastfeeding. This is called as the football or the clutch hold. So these are the three prominent holds I wanted to demonstrate. There are other holds as well. Holds like laid back, mother can lay back and put the baby, or side lying, mother can lie side and then turn the baby. But remember, in all of these holds, we need to understand that the baby has to cradle the breast. The baby always hugs the mother's breast. So these are the different positions of breastfeeding. Let's move on to the latching. What is latching? Latching is the process of putting the baby's mouth into the breast. So I have a little hand puppet. I hope you're all able to see that. So it's got a nice mouth, a little tongue that comes out. Let's assume this is the baby's mouth. And this is a model of a breast. So what generally happens, I've seen a lot of people using these two fingers to just pull on the nipple and put on the baby's mouth. What happens in this scenario? You see, there is a lot of gap on sides. A lot of air goes in for the baby. So baby takes in air, does not empty the breast. You hear a lot of mothers coming and telling there is a lot of clicking noises, a lot of ticking noises that's coming when the baby is sucking. Is that correct? Clicking noises are actually not correct. It is an indication of a poor latch. So which means that baby takes in a lot of air. Air fills up the baby. Baby doesn't really feed well properly. The second thing you will also notice is if only the nipple goes in, the mother is going to find a lot of pain while breastfeeding. Pain is not normal. Please remember, if a mother says it's very painful, there are family members who would probably tell her that a little pain is fine, you can go ahead and feed. But nipple pain is not normal. It's an indication of a poor latch. So how do we do a correct latch? So the first thing we need to do is tilt the baby's head back. How do we do that? Tilt the baby's head back. You get a little pressure here, the baby's head tilts back. So this way we can actually go and ensure that the baby's nose is not going and hitting. Okay, you can also see that while I demo. A mother uses the other hand to control the breast. So hold behind the areola. Use it a C, not a scissors, a C. C, and then tilt the nipple towards the baby's palate. So which actually you can tease the baby's upper lip to make them open the mouth. You tilt and then close the baby's mouth. So the baby will automatically close it. So this will ensure that there is no gap, and this will actually also make the baby get his or her tongue out, which means that there is no biting or there is no pain for the mother. This will give a nice latch and nice sucking and a beautiful emptying of the breast. So this is the correct latching technique. I hope you all understood the fundamentals of positioning and latching. Let's move on. Okay, this is something I'm sure will be very interesting for many of us because what happens is we read a lot online, a lot of resources are available, and many mothers especially today have access to a lot of information. But it can also be confusing because they hear something from their doctor, from their consultant, they hear something from the nurses, and then they go online and read something, and there is something else coming from the traditional practices. So let's talk about a few misconceptions and what is the reality of it. The first one, the baby starts crying. Immediately there is a big panic button that hits. All the grandmothers, the mothers, everybody gets very panicky, and the moment the baby cries, plus baby cries for other things like baby is overstimulated, baby is gassy, baby is a little fussy. So crying is a late sign of hunger. We also have to look at other cues like rooting, sucking, turning the baby's head, smacking, and all of this. These in combination will indicate whether the baby has hunger cries. So baby's form of communication is crying. So let's find out why the baby is crying before assuming every single cry is for feeding. Because what will happen is the moment you put the baby on the breast, the baby starts sucking. So yes, the baby is crying for hunger, but in reality, baby may be crying because he or she has been overstimulated. So crying is not just a sign of hunger, and you also need to look at the other cues for feeding. So that's one of the top misconceptions that goes around. The second thing you would have constantly heard, 2 hours once, 20 minutes of feed strictly. So I can actually quote an example where I had this mother who heard this, because this is a common recommendation in the first few days. What happened is she had a phone and she had a stop clock. So she was feeding for 20 minutes, and when the 20-minute rang out, she immediately unlatched the baby. And then the next 2 hours, the baby was sleeping, the baby was satisfied. She immediately had the 2-hour clock came up, and she was trying to wake the baby, and she started becoming very panicky because the baby was not waking up. And the next instance, the baby cried at 1.5 hours, and she wanted to wait for the exact 2 hours to feed the baby. So she was trying to go on a very rigid clock, which did nothing but add a lot of stress for the mother and the family. So, but why is this given as a recommendation in the early weeks? Is because babies are generally quite sleepy and they need to be stimulated. Their capacity for drinking milk is very less. Their stomach's size is very less. And it takes about 20 minutes for the baby to empty the breast. But what happens is, over a period of time, this pattern changes. This evolves. This is given as a general recommendation, but don't make sure your mother doesn't look at the clock, she doesn't have a stopwatch, because this only adds to the stress. Go with the baby's cues and go with the demands. So this is another thing that as nurses you need to be aware of. The next is, this is another common misconception you will hear. Feed both breasts. Yes, feeding both breasts is important, but what happens is, mother feeds 5 minutes here and then 5 minutes here, and this is something that is popularly recommended across. But what happens when the mother feeds just a few minutes here and a few minutes here? What comes at the start of the feeding is called as the foremilk. The foremilk has water and the foremilk has carbohydrates. But at the end of the feeding, the mother gets something called as hind milk, which is very rich in fat. When the mother just feeds 5 minutes or just few minutes in each breast, the baby ends up getting only foremilk. The baby may not get the hind milk, which will impact in weight for the baby, which may cause a little bit of a stomach distress for the baby. So these are all some risks of foremilk overload. The mother can definitely offer the second breast in the same feeding session, provided the baby has emptied one breast, which means that the baby has received the foremilk, the middle milk, as well as the hind milk. So this is something very crucial and very important for nurses to remember. And the next is, this is again, you will hear a grandmother telling, oh, baby has passed urine. Okay, everything is gone out. Now let's feed the baby again. A baby having a urine output or a bowel output is just an indication of a good feed. It doesn't mean that immediately as the baby passes urine, you need to feed. Based on other feeding cues only you need to feed. It's not that immediately after the baby passes urine or has India, we have a huge summer, a long summer in most states, and it's predominantly hot. We are in a tropical region. So a lot of mothers and grandmothers and everybody around the community always may ask us, do we need to give the baby water? It is very hot. Baby will get dehydrated if we don't give water. Or the baby hasn't passed urine. We have to give water. But let us understand that breast milk has about 86-87% of water. When I said about the foremilk, it has majorly water. So exclusively breastfed babies do not and should not need the water in addition. In fact, giving water additionally is very dangerous and risky for the babies. So please avoid giving water or any other prelacteal feeds. Like they will ask, can we give honey? Can we give sugar water? They are all very dangerous practices and should not be encouraged. Babies should be exclusively breastfed for the first 6 months. And then next, mother, let's say the mother is sick, the mother is under admission for something, she is not able to feed the baby, she is extremely tired, and that happens. We also need to be empathetic to understanding if the mother is tired. Forceful feeding never works. So how do we help such mothers? Because the question they are going to ask us is, mother is not able to feed. She is sick, she is tired, she is having a back pain, she wants to sleep for a few hours. Can I give the baby formula? Remember, expressed breast milk, EBM, is always the first choice of top up for the baby, which means that the mother can express or pump her own milk, and that can be given to the baby. Again, remember, the expressed breast milk shouldn't be given in bottles. Bottles definitely give nipple confusion, so you can give them in cups, spoons, what we call as palade, the shank, whatever. These kind of utensils can be used for giving the baby the expressed breast milk. When it comes to formula, please do get the opinion of a breastfeeding friendly pediatrician who has to determine whether the baby really needs any top-up feeds. Exclusive breastfeeding, which includes direct breastfeeding as well as expressed breast milk, is highly recommended in the first 6 months. Let's move on to, see again, sick mothers. This is something everybody has this doubt. Mothers are sick, I'm having a fever, I'm having a cold. Can I feed the baby? Will my sickness pass to the baby through breast milk? Let's look at these common viruses, common infections. They are actually not contraindications for breastfeeding. In fact, if the mother has the flu, her breast milk has the antibodies rather than the virus itself. So it's very important for sick mothers to continue breastfeeding. I'll give you a simple example that COVID, this is something that happened through the world throughout. During COVID times, initially when the world didn't know about COVID and there were births, it was important to separate the mother and the baby because research was not sufficient. But once the research started coming in, COVID antibodies were actually found in breast milk, which means that you are protecting the baby against the illness when you are sick. Isn't that a wonderful thing that when the mother is sick, she is protecting the baby? So that much of importance breast milk has. And again, the next thing what we may notice is if there is a cracked nipple. See, mother has a pain, like I said, poor latch causes cracks or pain in the nipple. Some mothers may even have a little bit of bleeding in their nipple. Immediately, should I stop breastfeeding the baby? The simple answer to that question is no. Even on an infected breast, even on a breast that is bleeding, the fundamental issue is correction of the latch. Teach the mother to correct the latch, but she can and she should continue breastfeeding. The next thing we'll talk about is milk. Drink more milk. If you want to produce more milk, drink more milk. That's actually a myth. Normal eating pattern, what the mother likes to eat, is more than sufficient. How milk is getting produced is through bonding, through sucking, through emptying. So more milk does not really actually increase the milk supply. And like I said earlier, nipple pain is normal. Don't normalize nipple pain. If families are talking to you about normalizing nipple pain, no, nipple should not be painful. In spite of correcting the latch, if the mother is having pain in nipples, please do check for oral restrictions, whether the baby is having any sort of ties which is preventing the tongue from coming out. So nipple pain is absolutely not normal. And again, this was a funny thing I heard in my practice. The mother was drinking something chill because her throat was dry. And immediately, she was told, don't drink or don't eat any chilled foods. Your baby will get a cold. Your breast milk will be cold. I mean, that is an absolute myth. Now, what the mother eats, in very rare cases, yes, there are scenarios, about 1 to 2% of babies do have allergies to mother's milk, but that is very, very rare. Mothers should be given a healthy diet. She should be encouraged to eat everything, a very wholesome meal. There is no specific food the mother needs to avoid unless she has a pre-existing condition, she is specifically indicated by her doctor or dietitian to avoid specific foods. Otherwise, foods are not contraindications to breastfeeding. And the other thing is about engorgement. What is engorgement? Engorgement is when the breast becomes very hard, it becomes overfull, it feels warm, the mother is not able to feed. So that's what we call as engorgement with oversupply, or there's a long gap between breastfeedings, incorrect emptying of the breast becomes very engorged. What you will hear is put hot water, use a lot of hot water to drain it. But in reality, hot water makes the inflammation and congestion worse. Please do not advocate the use of hot water or extremely hot fermentation for breast engorgement. So how do we manage that? The first thing is for pain, because when it comes with engorgement, it comes with pain. So we can use ice packs. Ice packs greatly help relieve the pain and the inflammation. And then for softening the breast, what the mothers can do is, they can take a small bowl of Epsom salt, or if some pain is there, a small bowl of Epsom salt water. So a bowl of warm water, not hot. Let me make it very clear. Warm or lukewarm water with a little bit of Epsom salt she can put and soak her breast. She can soak her breast or do a breast massage with a kneading massage. So she can use her knuckles and do a kneading massage and relieve any pain she has. But ice packs work wonderfully with inflammation and pain. So these are some of the common misconceptions. I'm sure there are a lot more that we can discuss. But again, what is your role? What is the nurse's role? When we talk about creating sustainable support systems, in institutional births, it starts at the hospital. The first thing we need to see is early initiation. What is early initiation? Within the first hour. The next is doing skin to skin, a lot of rooming in for the babies. And the next is supporting the latch and the position. And the last one is avoiding unnecessary supplements, especially when it is requested or initiated by the family. And how does it move beyond the hospital to the community? Post-discharge support, that's very important and it is missing in a lot of places. So please call up, ask them about how they are doing at home, and ask them to come for reviews, promote peer support groups, and advocate, make sure the family is educated, and that's very, very important in post-discharge. And in communities, advocate for breaks, breastfeeding breaks for working mothers, pumping break for them, and maternity leave policies. So that's very important as part of the community roles that nurses can do. And I would like to just conclude with a few words. Who are nurses? Nurses are just beyond patient care. They are educators. Nurses are advocates. You're all system builders. It's very important to build a system, and as we celebrate this World Breastfeeding Week, it's very important to nurses to understand that the support starts from us, it starts from you, it starts from the moment that patient reaches out to you, because you are the first point of contact for the mother and the baby. So let us all be system builders and ensure that this 63.7% today moves to 70%, moves to 80%, and moves to 90%, and one day it reaches 100%. So that's where our goal should be. So thank you so much for patiently listening. I hope you all learnt something out of this session, and I will hand it back to Dr. Sharda, and thanks for having me here.
I'm sure novice nurses also would enjoy that your presentation on the positioning of babies. Before we get started with the Q&A, here is some important information for all of you wonderful participants. further customized work area. The programs also meet NABH and JCI annual training requirements. Hxplain also has got short-term courses for individual professionals and students. These courses help them to acquire knowledge and skills in new areas. These micro-learning programs can also be taken as value-added courses by nursing students to improve their employment prospects. Visit Hxplain website or reach out to them for getting started on these courses. You have the link on the chat box. I have other announcements to be reinforced here. Participants, please note link to a form has been linked to the chat window. Please fill this up to receive your participation certificate. Do not forget. Read this stream's description to get more details about the course programs offered by Hxplain and upskill yourself. Happy learning. Here we got few questions that's been posted by some of us, and I think we have 1,000 plus delegates here on the screen watching us live here. It is wonderful, Nitya, that within a short period of time Hxplain was able to collate this. Now my question here is, World Breastfeeding Week 2025 is a celebration across the world in the hospitals, in the community, in every setup. Can you elaborate on the theme of the year? Can you also explain how and who declares and conducts this event and what is their outcome of this?
Sure, yeah, I can do that. Thank you. So thanks for this question. Yes, World Breastfeeding Week has been celebrated in the last few years. It was initially started off by WABA, which is World Alliance for Breastfeeding Action. This was done, is currently being done together with both WHO and UNICEF, which means that all of these big organizations together are promoting breastfeeding annually every year. And every year, August 1 to August 7 is being celebrated. And this year, we are specifically talking about creating a sustainable support system. Like I said, what is this sustenance? Sustenance is carrying forward. So when you start off at the hospital, our job doesn't end there. You know, it doesn't end there, okay, I have taught this mother about breastfeeding and I am done. No, post-hospital, what happens? She goes home. That's a very overwhelming place for a lot of mothers, because young mothers, and they have so much of information, sometimes they get an information overload also. So at that time, what we do is we ensure we follow up with them, connect them to peer support groups, connect them to lactation specialists, you know, ensure that they are comfortable in their journey towards this breastfeeding. And does it stop at home? No, it goes beyond that. It goes in communities. As healthcare professionals, it's very, very important for us to even lower healthcare costs. Where do we lower healthcare costs? As I said, breastfeeding is zero cost. It's free. It's readily available, which means that these kind of community programs also, as hospitals, as healthcare professionals, we need to keep conducting and going ahead. And again, this is, though it's a global theme, we do it in the community level, in hospitals, at homes, in organizations like these, which is, I think, is very, very wonderful. So this is how it's important for us to promote breastfeeding throughout.
Thank you, Nitya. That's indeed wonderful. We know that breastfeeding will bring in cost containment and cost effectiveness in all the healthcare facilities. The other question that I have for you is, you have talked about the benefits of breastfeeding. Can you review the benefits? Because we have many novice nurses and students who are in this group listening to us at this point in time. So what does the young audience should understand and how they should carry out in their practicing field? Can you please explain or reinforce those points?
Sure, I can do that. Before that, I'll actually like to take a simple example. What does a cow feed its calf? It's milk. What does a tiger feed its little cub? It's milk. So all the mammals, they feed their own milk to the baby. But why us as humans, in the first few months when the baby is tiny, are looking for supplies elsewhere? Which means that human milk is what is written for the human baby. And if you look at the benefits, let's start with the baby. Like I said, breastfeeding is one of the foods that has the maximum immunity. So you might have heard about IgG, IgA, IgE. What are all these? These are immunoglobulins which boost immunity, and they are pretty much extremely high in breast milk. Formula is trying to add something here and there, but of course nothing comes like natural. So it's very important that immunity boosting is extremely high with breast milk, which means that babies have lesser cold, lesser cough, lesser ear infections. These are all some great benefits for the babies, and baby stomachs are always calm, it's with breast milk. And it promotes brain development, it promotes growth. So these are some of the great benefits that breast milk offers for babies. Let's take the mothers for instance. While the mothers always feel it is difficult in the first few days and all that, but sterile, readily available and at the right temperature.
Absolutely, well said, Nitya. Now, usually the concept for us is we think Westerners are poor in their breast milk, breastfeeding babies and things like that. Now, do you have any statistics that will base for Indian mothers or NFHS, some survey or something, where how the Indian mothers are breastfeeding children? Are we in the right track, or are we away from the track that the World Health Organization or the healthcare facility needs? So can you brief on the statistics that we have?
Yes, actually I do have certain facts that I put out. I can take one of my charts. We can probably share it later with the audience as well. I think I showed in one of my slides. If we see that we are at 63.7% of exclusive breastfeeding. What is exclusive breastfeeding? The first 6 months, feed the baby only mother's milk. This was from the NFHS survey 5, which was the last survey done. But the good thing there is it's progressed from the previous survey, which was about 56%, but it's nowhere close to what we want to achieve. We want to be at least a minimum of 70%. That's what the World Health Organization determines. But across states, I do have statistics. See, for some states, you can see that the hospital births are pretty high. You can see about a lot of Dadra, Nagar Haveli, Uttar Pradesh, Tamil Nadu. They are all like about 90%, Tamil Nadu and all 99%, 98, 99% of births are at hospitals only. Very few births are at home settings. But what happens is we have a very less instance of the first hour initiation. So which means that we need to really introspect on that. What are the challenges in starting off with that golden hour? Everybody understands the importance of golden hour. Even if the baby is sick or need to be shifted to the NICU for some reason, what we ask is how we can initiate that breastfeeding is collect the colostrum from the mother. Do a colostrum swabbing. What is a colostrum swabbing? Taking one drop. It's fine to have that one drop. Taking that colostrum swabbing and applying it inside the cheek, the tongue, the mouth of even the sickest babies. Okay, and that itself offers great benefit, which means that we are getting that early initiation of breastfeeding. So we really need to work on, but surprising, a lot of states, especially tribal states, we find that early initiation is pretty high. Maybe it's in the tribal communities, the lack of technology, mothers don't get confused or something like that. But it is also important they do that. But as nurses, what is our role? Our role is very important in early initiation, because mothers can be confused, and we need to ensure that we break that confusion for them. We give the right guidance. When they say only one drop is coming, how can I initiate breastfeeding? We have to ensure and tell them one drop is gold. It is more than sufficient for the baby. So early initiation of that, even that single drop of colostrum offers multiple benefits for the baby. And that is where we can move from this, where we are still at their 60s in the country, to about 80s, which is very, very good, when it comes to breastfeeding. So that's the target we need to look for, which starts with that early initiation.
That is indeed a great amount of data that you have given, Nitya. Thank you for that. Now, I have one more question here. Since you have explained it with a clear data of how from institutional delivery there's a big gap in the first golden hour of feeding despite all the baby friendly hospital initiative. Now why is it so? Even the many healthcare professionals, nurses themselves find it very difficult to feed the baby in the first early hour, immediate postnatal period. Why is it that? Is it because of the positioning that you said, or is it because of some myths and misconceptions among the family members, or is it because they don't get a support system? In your practice, what is that you found very, very striking and highlighting where the gap is?
Actually, you have summarized it beautifully because it is a combination of all of these. When it comes, yes, there are, I'll tell you a very simple example. It was also a little funny for me. There was this very old grandmother, she was about 87, 88 years old, and her granddaughter had a baby, which means she's a great grandmother. So what has happened is, she came and told me that it's day 0, she's just had the baby. Why isn't milk flowing? Why isn't milk flowing? Why isn't milk flowing? It's important to understand that days 0, 1, 2, 3, the milk is not going to flow. It's going to be in drops. But you know what? That is more than sufficient. But we also need to be sensitive towards, because she is the one who's going to go back and help the mother. So how I had to handle it is about, yes, it will come for her. In days 3 onwards, she will also start getting milk. Once she starts eating, once she starts feeding. So we need to be sensitive about that. But at the same time, we have to ensure that the mother understands that, in days 1, 2, 3, she's going to get only drops, which is more than sufficient for the baby. And it's also about positioning and latching. Latching is one of the key things. So we need to really latch the baby properly. So these are some of the important ones.
So as you said it rightly, your explanation with the baby, it was very well, and I'm sure it reaches out the audience very nicely, student nurses, everyone is watching. Can you just once again look into or show us the way of latching it? Positioning, everyone knows.
Yes.
Latching is where the challenge comes for everyone, including mothers, healthcare professionals.
So again, when latching, please remember the C, the U. This is what is crucial. So make sure you hold the breast with one hand and use a C or a U hold depending on how your areola and nipple are shaped, and then you need to tilt the baby's head, which means you can insert this into the top. So this will ensure you are tilting it and inserting it into the top of the palate. What if the baby refuses to open his or her mouth? Just express a little milk, tease the top of the lip, tease a little bit, and then get the baby to open and insert. So ensure the gap is sealed, the nose is free, the chin touches the breast, the nose does not touch the breast, and there is no gap on the sides. This will give a nice, deep, pain-free latch. There should be no pain and there should be no clicking noises. So these are some of the key aspects of a deep latch.
Thank you, Nitya. That was indeed very wonderful. Once again, dear audience, I'm supposed to make these announcements. Please note that there is a link in the form that has been shared in the chat window. Please fill it up to receive your participation certificate. Do not forget. Read this stream's description to get more details about the courses that Hxplain has got and benefit out of it. Upskill yourself. Happy learning. And as we come to the end of this session, and I'm sure the audience will have many more to ask, we will come back with other webinars shortly. And can you give us the take-home message for all our healthcare professionals who are watching here on this platform? What would be your take-home message on this wonderful Breastfeeding Week celebration of 2025?
Thank you. So first, thank you all for joining and watching live with us. So the first, like I said, sustain breastfeeding. Do not stop with just patient care. Now let us go beyond that. Let us go by enabling them, being enablers, being educators, being support systems, and being system builders. So let's take it beyond just our workplace. You know, we are healthcare professionals, don't have an office. We don't work within four walls. We work beyond it. We work within the system. So let's take this learning to homes, to hospitals, to communities, to corporates, to workplaces everywhere, and explain to them how important, what are the benefits of exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months are, and how continued breastfeeding till 2 years and beyond. What is continued breastfeeding? After 6 months of exclusive breastfeeding, we'll add weaning foods. Does that mean we are stopping breastfeeding? No. Let us continue it 2 years and beyond. This message from us, we have to take it across to the community and make sure that the importance and the sustaining plan of breastfeeding is spread across. So thank you all. Once again, thank you, Dr.
Thank you, Nitya. You have nailed it, the message. I am sure the participants would enjoy it. At this juncture, we are completing the webinar. I once again remind you all to fill in the link form that's given in your chat box and come to us with your questions if you have any. We will definitely answer through your mails. And happy breastfeeding week and happy breastfeeding for all the prospective mothers who are watching here, the healthcare providers, and happy learning as we are moving on with the digital platform and Hxplain. Wonderful audience. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.